Police refused to answer our question and suddenly started violently dragging people. Grabbed me from the floor and shoved us in the Black Maria.
Hey guys, welcome back to the Are We OK podcast, where we talk about public policies and issues of that nature in ways that are relevant to you. My name is Kian Ming.
And I'm Peter.
And we have a special guest with us today. Her name is Kusha Mahindran, known as Kusha for short.
Yeah.
Correct?
Yes.
And we will be introducing Kusha a little bit later on.
We got to thank our sponsor, right? Yeah. So thank you very much, Zeus, for sponsoring our episode here today. And do you all notice that the cup is a little bit different? Yeah, this is a limited edition cup design collaboration with a local Malaysian artist called Izzati Souza. Maybe you can keep this cup for quite a long time also.
Support local artists.
Yep. I would say that it's quite a beautiful art lah. Yeah, so thank you very much, Zeus, for sponsoring this episode.
We have a special guest with us today. Kusha is a very interesting person in the sense that she is the youngest female councillor in Majlis Bandaraya Petaling Jaya, MBPJ for short. Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself, how old you are, when you came into this position, what were you doing before this?
Hello everyone, I'm Kusha. I am the DAPU Chief of Petaling Jaya and have been the DAPU Chief of Petaling Jaya since 2021. How I entered politics. So actually I started with an internship with Rajiv at the end of COVID. So
who's Rajiv?
Rajiv is Adun Bukit Gasing, Adun N34 Bukit Gasing, YB Rajiv, Risha Karan. And it was a DAP internship actually. So you had to pick three people and Rajiv was my second choice. And until today, he won't let me forget that he was my second choice.
Who's your first choice? Can you mention?
Michelle.
Oh, Michelle. Okay. Adun for Subang Jaya.
Yes.
Both equally good Aduns.
Yeah, great Aduns. So I started with an internship at the end of 2020 between my second year of my degree and the third year of my degree.
This was during COVID?
This was during COVID.
Okay.
So, there was a restriction, you can't move around. This is October 2020 to December 2020 was my internship. Rajiv offered me to stay on part-time while I completed the last year of my degree as his political secretary. Basically, kick all whatever that needs to be done.
Can I just stop you there for a moment, right? Actually, what was a degree? How come you went to be a
Yes, please tell us. I know your degree, but please tell us. Yeah.
My degree was in actuarial science, actually.
Actuarial science?
Yeah.
Well, that's far off, man. That's far off.
Did you continue with some of the exams that could have allowed you to qualify as actuarial science?
So there's about 8 SOA papers to sit for, and I'm done with about 4, I think. Maybe I don't plan to fall back on it anymore, and I was planning to think about it much later, like maybe 5 years into politics to continue on with actuarial science or not. But then after the 1 year in politics, after my entire year 3 was over, I was like, okay, I think after 1 year of working part-time, juggling the final year of my degree, this is still I want to do it. This is still what I want to do.
Okay.
Then maybe I should, jump in full-time.
What do your parents say, after spending all this time, studying actuarial science is hard to get into, hard to graduate from?
My parents were very disappointed, to be very honest. Actually, when I got the internship, they were very like, oh my God, you want to intern with DAP? Why? It's political. Why would you do that? I thought you wanted to be a professional. You are the one who wanted this. So I was the one who wanted to study actuarial science because I was very good at maths. And I was like, I'm a maths girl. And it was something I wanted. My parents, even when I wanted to join actuarial science, they were like, it's a very difficult course. It's very hard to, come out with a good grade from that course.
And also to qualify.
And also to qualify. So it's difficult to pass the degree, and it's also difficult to pass all the 8 papers to be a professional actuary. So that's like a fellow. You can see why my parents are very disappointed because...
Who was more disappointed, your mother or your father?
Both were very disappointed actually, because I felt like a lot of their life was spent leading up to a proper education for both me and my sister, and to see me throw away a golden opportunity that could lead to stability, security is very scary.
Well, it's not really throwing away. You could go back to it, but it's just a different phase of your life right now. And in the end, how did you convince them that this was what you really wanted to do and you felt very passionate about?
It was not really something I had to convince. I just kind of did what I wanted to do. So I graduated from my degree, and then I got a full-time job with a full-time paycheck, and I was like, okay, this is what I'm doing now.
Right.
And they sort of gradually accepted that?
Yes, gradually, begrudgingly accepted. So in 2021, I got arrested in a vigil. August 2021.
I remember that. Yes.
Wow.
You want to remind or tell the audience what the issue was this? I think you were not alone. There were others as well.
Yes, there were about 31 people arrested together with me.
What were you guys doing there?
There was 100,000 COVID deaths in the country already. And we felt that, we were not rigorously testing. We were not doing enough to isolate enough people. And so much could be done to isolate the diseased, but we are just sticking to this movement control order, which is killing the economy, but at the same time, we are not focused on the surgical knife part of the policy making. So a group of youths, non-partisanly, went to a vigil held in Dataran Merdeka to commemorate the life of these 100,000 people. So we brought roses and we brought candles, and the police brought guns. So there was guns and roses.
Wow.
Oh, Guns and
Wow,
Roses.
Guns and Roses night.
Yes, interesting description. So what
So
happened?
I was very junior, and I was there with my friend Tulsi and also Nalina, and they were all in the front and center. And I remember the police asking to give us their IC. So Nalina spoke up, and Nalina was like, "Are we under arrest?" Very kindly, not rudely at all, not provocative at all. And a few of them, a few leaders, and actually the person negotiating with the police at the time was all female frontline people.
Wow.
All the males were just kind of standing around, really.
Yeah.
Wow.
So I know Tulsi. Tulsi is now the Adun for Buntong
Yeah.
in Ipoh.
So Tulsi used to be part of Bukit Gasing. She was the PWB in Bukit Gasing. So actually we drove to the vigil from the Bukit Gasing office together after one of our programs.
Okay, and Nalina is actually a local councillor.
Yeah, my
Right.
colleague in MPPJ.
Yeah. So and what happened after this discussion with the police?
So then the police refused to answer our question and suddenly started violently dragging people. So 4 people were violently dragged, and I was actually one of the 4. And actually I had a terrible bruise in my back and a terrible bruise in my arm because, they grabbed me from the floor. I'm not very heavy, but, they grabbed me from the floor and like shoved us in the Black Maria. The Black Maria that they bring the prisoners in. And so these videos were all viral on the internet.
And how do your parents feel?
So they didn't know. We were arrested, and by the time we were out, it was like 1 something in the night. We were detained for a while, and then they kept us in a room. So yeah, they took away our phones, they took away our ICs. We were all just like kind of waiting in the room to see what was going to happen. And I remember thinking, I was like, oh my God, no matter what happens, my parents cannot find out. So the first thing I did when I got in the Black Maria was text my office WhatsApp group. That time I told Rajiv, I'm going to save your name as dad, and I told Madeline Chang, I'm going to save her name as mom. So in case the police like scroll through my contact to call someone, it's them that they call instead of calling my real parents. And I had changed my real parents' name. That was the first thing I did. The second thing I did, I texted in the office WhatsApp group. I'm like, no matter what, nobody tell my parents anything. Like until let's see like how this plays out.
Yeah. So how did your parents find out?
They found out the next morning because
From the
my
viral
cousin
video?
sister, yes, my cousin sister is like, oh my God, that's your daughter. The police is dragging your daughter, because the video that my mom got was an actual video of me being dragged out of the thing.
My.
And so my mother called me at 8 a.m. I slept late. I'm also very tired, a bit traumatic incident. My mother calls me at 8 a.m. She's like, oh my God, are you in jail? I was like, if I'm in jail, I'm not answering your call.
Okay.
Yeah,
And
they
then what
were
did you
very
tell?
upset. They were like, this is why you don't get
shouldn't.
into politics.
What is the status of the case now?
No case on me, but Nalina has a case on her and Suja.
So they
Yeah.
have to defend themselves in court.
Yes, they had to defend themselves in court because actually what happened was they took 2 Black Marias in, and when they brought the first group of people in, I can hear Nalina shouting from the police station, they're handcuffing us.
Do you recall the charge against Nalina and also
Yes,
Dr.
behavior that disrupts public service.
Right.
public
Yes.
peace maybe?
Something about not cooperating with the authorities.
Okay.
Yes.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Tidak senonoh. I think that was
Ah.
the word that they used
Okay.
against her in court. Tidak
Are you
senonoh.
glad that you weren't charged or?
Actually, to be honest, I don't know what would have happened also if I was charged. I guess we would have had to depend on one of the lawyers who were helping out the human rights group. Not to say I'm grateful I wasn't charged, but maybe I also really didn't have the mental capacity to go through that at that time, because actually it was 2 weeks before my final exam.
Okay.
Wow.
2 weeks before my final degree exam.
Oh, you're like warrior like that, huh?
Did you pass? Did you pass?
Yes,
Okay,
with good grades.
Oh, with good grades some more. Wow. Okay.
Maybe to contextualize things a bit, we got to know each other because I found out that you were very interested in public policy issues. You want to tell us a little bit about those initiatives and projects?
Sure, maybe I'll start with the first one that I worked on during my internship. So when I had joined in October 2020, at this point there's no testing. It will cost about 300 ringgit to test for PCR. And this was way before it was normal to test with the RTK, even though many other countries around the world was already testing with the RTK to isolate people. But Malaysia didn't have any sort of that testing. But there was a migrant worker testing system. So migrant workers can test with the RTK and see how they were isolated, but normal Malaysians like us, there was no easy way to get yourself tested. And so this was the problem statement. How do I know if I have COVID and I need to isolate or not? Because at that time, PCR was more for people flying in, flying out. What if you've had exposure with someone? What if you're falling sick and you want to check if you have COVID or not? So I remember following Rajiv. At this point, I was not really contributing yet. This was really all of this testing thing is a Rajiv credit. A lot of the others I will take half the credit, but this was really a Rajiv credit. And we were talking to doctors and medical personnel to understand the components of the different tests that were available. So there was an antibody test, there was an antigen test, and there was the PCR test. And we were trying to understand like which was
The accuracy.
level. Why is it not good enough to just test with the RTK test and test more people to make sure that we can see what's going on?
Yeah.
At this point, this was not normal. This was not being done in Malaysia. It was not being done in any of the Southeast Asian countries also, in fact. And, people were very wary. Were these test kits original? Were they coming in? And all of that. So Sabah's election just happened and a second wave of COVID broke off.
Yes,
After the
I remember
Sabah
that, yes.
election. And so people who were coming back from the Sabah elections had to get tested.
Yep.
And that's when Rajiv was coming back from the Sabah elections and he was like, oh my God, the only way I can get tested is a 300 ringgit PCR test. But that could work for him, but not for a lot of other Malaysians who might have
For
seen
the
family
masses,
members. Who must, you see someone, they have COVID 3 days later, then you are just like, oh my God, do I have COVID or not? And I thought it was very impressive how he identified the problem very specifically, because I think maybe the first step in policy making is that we should understand the problem and
Yes.
what and who it's affecting.
Yes.
And I really thought that was very impressive. I was really genuinely like, wow, you are right. This is the problem statement that people can't test right now. And so we had a few conversations with a few medical professionals and a few clinics even. And that time we were not the national government. So any clinic that was willing to partner us is like, it's a business decision. Like, do you want to side with Selangor? I mean, we are the Selangor government, but we're not the federal national government. All their health things, certifications, all are under KKM, which is the national government. And that time, Khairi was the minister
minister.
coordinating the vaccination
correct.
and all of that. In the few conversations we had with doctors, so the doctors were like, actually, yes, RTK can work for mass testing. All their professional opinions were RTK can work for mass testing. It was not one person that we talked to. We talked to a few different groups of people, some of them even specializing in public health. And when that was clear that we could use this RTK method, which was significantly cheaper, but at that time it was still like 150 or 180 at that price point. And so we sat down with clinics who were willing to collaborate with us to understand which is the doctor fees, which is the equipment fees, which is the test kit fees. And we realized that if we bulk order the test kit, we can bring down the price much lower because it's like a higher quantity, lower amount, as well as if the doctors can test 10 patients at a time, they don't have to change their PPE for the thing. So they save their PPE costs. And we brought it down significantly to 70 ringgit with a 10 ringgit subsidy. That's how we did it at first.
Yeah, I remember the 70 ringgit
Yeah.
part because that was one of the first RTK tests to be coordinated and subsidized that way before the Selangor state government started rolling out the free tests for the masses.
Yes, correct. So this was way before the Selangor government bought any test kits. This was us talking to businesses to see what is the viable way to do this. We don't want the doctors to lose money because if the doctors lose money, there's no incentive for them to collaborate with us. We don't want people to pay too much because then they won't test. Right. So how do we find that balance? And the way he surgically remove the 3 parts of testing, and I was like, okay, this is the part that costs us a lot, we need to bulk order. This is the PPE that costs us, we need to spread it across 10 to 15 people. I was genuinely very impressed, and I was like, wow. And now suddenly people are testing, and our testing centers were like at 200 to 300 people per day, and it was running full time for 1.5 years, sustainably.
Wow.
Yeah.
So that's public policy, in action, so to speak.
Wow.
Yes,
That's
so I was
impressive,
very
man.
much the coordinator between the clinics at that time. I'm a person who will find a way to involve myself in the very most workings of things.
You're capo in a good way.
Yes. I was very capo, so I was like one of the most capo interns. 2 other people interned with me. I was significantly the most capo intern. I was like, what is going on here? I want to be part of this. I want to be part of that. But more than that, actually, I care about politics since I was very young. And to see that even just as a backbencher Adun, Rajiv can do so much. It's a sense of fulfillment because you're actually like doing something that works.
It's encouraging to also see that elected rep that's actually proactive, that wants to understand the problem and also to put in very practical solutions.
Yes, his solutions are very practical. He's not a person who thinks, we need to have a multi-stage mega plans of things. He's like, you need to identify the exact problem and then he'll identify the solution. But until you can identify the exact problem, he won't talk to you about a solution. So he'll keep asking you why.
So let's go back to, when you were young.
Yeah.
You said when you were younger, you really was interested in politics. That's not normal for most young people. Most young people
Yeah.
be doing other stuff.
I'm not interested in politics until I was much older, man. When I started
Yeah.
paying tax.
Yeah, you'll be interested in going out to hang out with your friends.
That's right,
And whatnot, right? So what explains your early enthusiasm, in the political landscape?
Unfortunately, I think not caring about politics is a privilege.
Okay.
Unfortunately, I think so. Okay, so what happened at 14 was it was the 2013 elections, and there was this blackout, and everybody was posting the blackout. Remember, everyone's profile picture on Facebook was like black. And I was 14. I shouldn't have been on Facebook, but my parents are wonderful and they let me do what I want. So,
Or you basically force them to accept whatever it is that you do.
Yes.
It's okay. Go ahead. Yeah.
so I was on Facebook and I was scrolling, and actually that elections, I remember the 2 weeks leading up to the elections, I was following it very closely because my then history teacher was Mr. Ramesh, who was part of Hindraf. He was the state secretary, Perak state secretary of Hindraf. Hindraf is a Hindu Indian movement
Yes.
where they fight for the marginalized right of the Hindu Tamil community. And I am from the Hindu Tamil community proudly. I speak Tamil fluently. And I speak, read and write Tamil fluently actually. A lot of people don't know
wow.
this. Yeah.
Read
That's good
and
to know.
write.
Yeah, read and write.
That's very powerful.
Yeah.
Not easy to
Yeah.
read and write, especially from what I understand. Not many in the Tamil community actually, write in Tamil. Yeah.
Yes.
They
It's
speak
true.
it, but they don't write it.
Yes.
So when I was younger, my father had all these Tamil literature books that he'd read. So my father is a very Tamil speaking, Tamil reading person, and he and my mother both thought it was very important that we learn and master the language. So while we went to SK schools, we still took side classes by this old teacher who was an ex-Guru Basar. So she's the one who actually taught me how to read, write, pronounce, all of this. Yeah.
And which school was this?
This was SK Tasisan Convent in Ipoh.
Okay.
Tasisan Convent in Ipoh. So I grew up in Ipoh actually. I moved to Ipoh when I was 6. Yeah, and I was very inspired by what he had said because a lot of how he felt and why he felt the need to fight for Hindraf was a lot of things that I also felt. Like, I did feel that we were quite marginalized, and I did feel that we lack opportunities. And I was really hopeful at 2013 that we can change it. We can change the government because then maybe I'll have a better chance of going to a good university, because otherwise people like me will not have a chance to go to university.
Right.
Well, in a sense, you're also privileged in
Yeah.
your own right, in that you managed to get into a local university and also study actual
Definitely,
science. So
yeah.
not-
My
not
parents
some-
did everything they can to make sure that me and my sister prioritize our education. And so they were very education focused from the beginning. No matter what playtime we had, no matter what our interests were, my mother always insists that, good grades is the gateway to
And you
moving up the social rung.
And you reward them by entering into politics. Mom and dad, don't be afraid, don't be scared. I entered into politics as well, and although now I'm not in the front line anymore, I still can cari makan. There are other opportunities out there. I benefited a lot from being in the political landscape. So Kusha is in a good place. She'll learn a lot in the kind of work that she has done and will continue to do. So maybe before we go to the break, one last question, which is, how did you get from working at Rajiv's office to becoming a counsellor for MPPJ?
Actually, the first person who talked to me about becoming a counsellor was Dr. Ong. It was
I
right
recall.
after the internship. So I had seeked him out for advice and help because I was finishing my 1-year part-time degree. I mean, my part-time working with degree. And I was seeking out help from a few people as well to decide which master's program to do. So I was considering between masters in economics and public policy in UM. And I was asking a few people that would know how to guide me and help me choose, because I don't know which will have a better implication and which will help me. Although, you can go through the modules, but it's not quite the same as, having a conversation with someone. And Dr. Ong very rightfully pointed out, he's like, okay, so you need to think about what's your next step. And if you're going to work for Rajiv for a couple years, 3 to 5 years, and then, you should ask to become a local counsellor. At that point, when he said it had never even occurred to me that this was the next step. I was just going to take it at that year and what I do with Rajiv, because actually the work that we did in the policy circle was interesting enough to keep me going, and I also had a lot of freedom to pursue the different problems
projects.
that we have identified. And we've done quite a bit of things in Bukit Gasing. I think many of you have heard, but I think all of that is credit to a lot of my senior party leaders as well as Rajiv.
Yeah, so Rajiv, there was an opening and Rajiv said, do you want to take that position or that opening? Is that how it happened?
Someone wanted to step down and suddenly there was a position available. And it was also a question of, if sometimes in politics when you push someone too fast, too up, and then you will spoil your other relationships that you've so hard proudly made.
Sure, yeah.
in-
Other people have been waiting in line and so on and so forth.
Yeah. And being a counsellor, to be honest, is a privilege because not everybody will get this opportunity to serve, especially in PJ with a budget of 150,000 ringgit, as well as decision-making position. It's something that people want. It's something that we had to be very worried, like, what would be the framing if, it was given at a very young age, as well as not to say I'm least experienced, because at this point I've been working for 4 years. So anyone who's been working in an admin office for 4 years naturally is coming up to that level.
So was there any resistance when your name was first proposed?
Actually, no.
Okay.
To my surprise, but I was worried that there will be. Yeah.
Well, I think it's part and parcel of how, from my experience, from what I've seen, DAP is a party that actually gives quite a lot of opportunities to younger people. And the fact that you're actually not the youngest councillor.
Yeah.
There's a younger councillor
Vailun.
who's 23 this year.
Oh,
Yes.
wow.
Yeah, so he's actually the youngest councillor in
Excellent,
NPP.
talented in different ways, but yeah,
Right.
energetic.
So we'll come back and talk about what is it exactly that a councillor does, and Peter will be driving most of the questions. We'll be right back after this.
Hi, welcome back to part 2 of Are We Okay? And right now we have Kusha in the studio with us. So Kusha, yes. So just now you were mentioning, right? You went from intern and then after that doing part-time, then becoming a local councillor. And you were surprised that there was no objection because you're one of the youngest one, right? Yeah. And Dr. Ong also mentioned that DAP is one that actually give opportunity to younger people, and this is the first time I see, because they always tell me, right, I never see before. So this is like really
Yeah,
I'm
this
seeing
is
it
a live.
Person.
because literally when you came in, I thought I'll be seeing an older person. Then so just now when you walked in the office, I was like, oh, is this the assistant or something like that? Then no, that's her. Yeah, sorry, but great job. I think it also gave me a perspective on public policy and what you do. But firstly, I want to ask this question to you, right? Is that when you decided to do this job as a local councillor, actually, what do you do? Because I've been hearing it from him, and I've never been able to reach out to my own. I've 1,000,001 question. Yeah. So what does a local councillor do?
So a local councillor, okay, this is how I see it. The board of MPPJ. So MPPJ is the government body. MPPJ is like the local government. We have 3 levels of government: the local, state, and federal government. How MPPJ is run is that the mayor is like the chairman, and then there's 24 councillors who are board members. So this board with the chairman and the board members run the council.
Right.
So this board is divided into subcommittees. So in PJ, I'm sitting in the town planning, infrastructure, finance, law and enforcement committee. These 4 committees, and there are 12 people in this committee, chaired by either the mayor or the deputy mayor, and 11 other councillors who make decisions. So in MPPJ, I think each committee makes about 100 decisions a month on different things that are happening in PJ. This is the role on paper.
Right.
However,
No, and you
I'm
also-
a practical politician.
You also take care of your zones,
Yes.
not just the committees, but the
Correct.
the area of
So
geographical
Selangor does
area
it
as
this way. We have a zone. Every councillor is in charge of one zone. So you have a person in charge like for each zone. So something wrong with
Okay.
the zone, you can contact your councillor. But Penang, for example, doesn't have zones. So the 24 local councillors and the one mayor chair all of these committee meetings and work out this way. But there's no assigned zones.
Right. So
Yeah.
it's kind of like you are taking care of, in PJ case, you are taking care of a zone. On top of that, you are given a portfolio like town planning, law enforcement, and blah, blah,
Yes,
blah,
correct.
like that, right?
Yep.
So it's either come to you because of the relevant portfolio issue, or either it's for the local area related
Correct.
matter.
So my residents look for me for a wide range of issues. I love my residents. They were
Right.
so excited when I was nominated.
You have
They
to
were
say that, right?
oh yes, I have to say that. But to be honest, I actually do acknowledge the privilege of serving in PJ. I think
Which part of
I've-
PJ you want to tell the audience?
Yeah, I serve section 11, 12 and 13. So PPUM, the road across of PPUM. So PPUM is KL. The road across, the entire thing is mine. So 11, 12, 13.
PPUM is the hospital. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
University
hospital.
Melaya.
Yes.
So there's that Jalan Unku Aziz that separates.
That's right. The one that
Yep.
leads to the Jalan
Correct.
Templer,
Yeah.
Gasing area. Lah.
Yes,
Yeah.
correct.
So now, you also mentioned that because at the moment you came in, then when we talk about it, you identify yourself as a politician. But at the same time, when we talk about it, we are talking about MPPJ, MBSA, or the different majlis perbandaran, right? This is where, as a citizen, sometimes I'm a little bit confused, right? So is it that all these MBPJ, MBSA people, or whatever MB, right? Are they actually civil servants or are they politicians? This is another confusion that I have.
So in all 3 level of government, it's like the civil service runs the mission, does the executive role, whereas the politician is usually either appointed or elected. So in the state government, you get your 56 elected reps. In the local government, you get your 24 appointed councillors, which we used to have local government elections. Now we don't have anymore. So the political parties that win the state government appoint these councillors. So the work is still actually done by civil service. We get to decide on the direction and which way we want to bring PJ towards.
Right. So it's kind of like a politically appointed civil servant. Can I put it in that?
It's a political appointment because we are not the civil servant. So we are always collaborating with civil servants. We are talking to them. We are persuading them. We are asking them, can we go this direction? We're persuading the committee of 11 people, which is chaired by the mayor, the deputy mayor. So yes, we are not the civil servant. The civil servant is the civil servant.
So you're not the boss, but you are kind of like advisor.
Advisor.
I think a better way to answer this question would be for you to explain the different roles that you play as a local councillor in terms of, let's say, constituency or residents' complaints. Then there's another bucket that talks about policy issues at MPPJ level. So those kinds of things. Maybe you want to explain a little bit more.
So, for example, when the residents want to complain for something, most of my residents are quite aware. They need to make an MPPJ aduan. They send me an aduan number if the aduan is not resolved. So in PJ, we have a system where you collect aduan, they will generate an aduan number. Yes. So if you make your aduan number in January, it'll be like Jan, whatever, like followed by the numbers, the series number.
Some examples of these aduans?
Broken drain, potholes on the road. So our potholes, we have a 24-hour...
Leaking water, like my house nearby.
Leaking water, your drains are too full when it rains. That means we need to start some flood mitigation plans in the area if your drains are starting to feel very full during the rainfall. Trees falling, you need to cut a tree, something. All of these taman problems are usually gone through this aduan system.
Yes.
So what I do is, if for example a complaint is made and it's already been made for a month or 2 months and there's no action from MPPJ, I can follow up. I can be like, hey, what happened? The resident complained about this. So the first thing I have to do is verify the complaint because, sometimes residents don't always complain about. Yeah. So we need to verify before we persuade the civil service to solve the complaint. And after verifying that this is a true aduan, we discuss with the civil service what's the best way to solve. So sometimes the civil service will do it the way they've done it many, many years ago. And maybe we disagree with the way that they've done it before and we'd like to change their opinion. So how do you tactfully have that conversation with them and say like, hey, I know you guys did this before, but can we do it this way this time?
Can you give an example of that?
So the drains in section 12 is flooding. I mean, it's not flooding, sorry. It is not flooding. The drains are very full to the brim. And so the residents kept asking for widening project at the back of their drains. But anybody who thinks from the bigger picture view knows that we have monsoon drains. And if the drains at the residential roads are flooding, we should look at the monsoon drains. So first we need to see if the drains have been cleaned in the last 1 to 2 years. Cleaning the drain makes a big difference in water flow, actually. And this is step 1. And step 2 is after the drains are cleaned, if the water flow is still going to be stagnating at the top area, then how much do we need to widen and which monsoon drains to target to widen so we don't widen individual roads. This is the way I want MPPJ to approach the problem. But how they did it previously was if a resident said that this drain is full at the back, they need to widen this drain, then they add it to the list of drains to widen in the queue. But that's not quite solving the issue of, we need to disperse the water out downhill and what is the best way to do it.
Wow. So I see a huge difference if, let's say, the local councillor actually knows her stuff. Versus like...
To be fair, I've been doing constituency work for 3.5 years. This is my 4th year doing constituency work, so...
So why do you think, Kusha, there's a disconnect between, let's say, Peter as a resident and the local councillor in his particular area? We won't name the area. Why do you... And I think his experience is not alone. He's not alone in experiencing that. Why? What are some of the explanatory factors behind this disconnect?
Yeah, maybe I want to give you the situation that I'm going through,
please.
right? So those viewers, are we okay? You probably watch it, you remember my situation. So and usually I think a taman issue is usually more complicated. Like, so I have this road issue where it's a lot of potholes. But when I complain to MBSA say under the road works. It's not under MBSA. Now, on top of that, we have a drain issue, and because the road is, no one knows who owns that road. Yeah, so drain also, like as if no one knows who owns it. The only one who will come and fix it is TNB, because if let's say down, they get penalized, right? And then the water side, not so much. Now, then there's also a lot of trees growing that is actually disturbing our cable for the Unify, right? So it grows, then it pushes the cable there. Cable get disconnected and stuff like that. So when this person come, they say, oh, the tree is not my problem. Oh, this one is my problem, but this one not my problem. All these things start happening. So then I was advised to find a local counsellor, which I don't know where to find my local counsellor. I tried online, I tried asking MBSA itself, but no one bothers answering me. Yeah.
Okay, I'm so sorry this is your situation. But actually working to solve the problem for me doesn't only confine to MPPJ, because a lot of the problems, sometimes it's a state road, sometimes it's a federal road. So you follow up on behalf, you can follow up, and usually JKR does reply me and some other people. They will not JKR has 60 years of culture to change. So, they have not been maintaining their roads for a long time. And people in Kota Kumaning, Shalam, they also face the same problem. A lot of their major roads are JKR roads. And in these major roads, there are major issues within the road itself. And it's so difficult to get them. And every time you talk to them, they'll tell you that they have no budget. But what you should do, what a local councillor should do, is write a letter in formula to JKR and tell them, I, on behalf of my zone, as the local councillor, am requesting that you put this for next year's budget because this road needs to be upgraded or paved.
Yeah, that's probably I'm guessing that your road is probably a state road. But even under JKR, there are also federal roads.
Yes, there are federal roads, state roads, and local roads.
Then how do I know as a citizen?
You won't.
You won't. We don't expect our citizens to know, so that's why our office usually plays the coordinating role. Both the MP office also does it, the Adun office also do it. At least as far as I know, the DAP office do it.
So I can see that actually if you're a local councillor, if you're doing your job, you kind of become an extension arm of the overall MP or Adun, right? Where they get the work done. Because like if I complain to MBSA, MPPJ or whatnot, actually there's a lot of things going on at the back, a lot of complication, and the things that you're describing is a lot of following up.
Yes, there's a lot of following up. So half of the job is following up.
Maybe I can add on to that, ask this question. How do you think would be an ideal working relationship between the Adun and the local councillor in terms of coordinating these constituency issues?
So how we do it in Bukit Gasing is we have a bi-weekly meeting. I think this is also the most efficient way to do it. So Rajiv has a cave system, a website that has existed for the last 13 years. It's a very old website, but basically every complaint that someone walks into our office, calls us or tells us through the hotline, it goes into this case system with their name, their phone number, and their contact detail. And so it's assigned to someone in the office. So before this, I had a bunch of cases assigned to me that were not even in my zone. So you help follow up and you update the residents, the complaint. So you call them and you tell them like, hey, your complaint about this. I had a conversation with who, and who. It will be solved within the next month, or it will be solved within the next 2 months. Or JKR has no budget, but I will be pushing them to include this in the list of things that they should repair in the next year, for example. So that's how we do it in Bukit Gasing, and I think a lot of DAP officers also do that. They take their residents' name, complaint, whichever way they store their data, they will contact their residents again and update them what's going on. So we sit down bi-weekly, every 2 weeks once, and Rajiv goes through all the things that we have in the case system. Like, okay, some of it is not even in my zone, but it's a town planning initiative, or some of it is an infrastructure meeting related thing, but it's not in my zone, but I'll bring it up on behalf in Bukit Gasing.
So actually, ideally, in a context where you have the local councillor or local councillors working together with the Adun and the MP, you would be able to pool resources. So, for example, I want to upgrade this playground. The Majlis or the council doesn't have sufficient funds. Let's pool resources. The local councillor has some allocation, the Adun has allocation, the MP has allocation, and then you can work together to put a project, and not just one area, but try to share
have
resources.
a game plan for the year, like what are we upgrading, because people are different. Not everybody just wants policy initiatives. People are diverse, and politics means serving the diverse range of people.
Right.
And a lot of people want nice parks, and we should do that. We should prioritize that.
Actually, the truth is like what happened in my place, because the road was so bad and no one gets to contact whoever that's in charge. What happened was that the residents on top of the hill, they decided to use their own methods. So what happened is that some of them are working in construction, so they bought cement together. They repaired the road. So one day I was so happy because at night someone was repairing the road. I thought it was for MPPJ. I was like, MBSA, you're finally here. Then they were like, no, we stay up there. Then we decided to pool money together and just repair it. Yeah, so I gave them money as well. I said, please consider my contribution. And my point is, I think, there are certain things that that maybe there's too much of a delay and people who stay there actually just want a better road or better facility or whatnot. They don't mind even having someone to actually come together and say, hey, let's do it together. It reminds me of those old days when I was younger. There was those
Gotong royong.
rukun tedangga kind of thing. People
rukun
put money together and say, let's do some of the small things. I mean, you're not going to accept repairing the federal road or whatnot lah, but you know, at least a little bit, maybe cut the grass in the park, make a nicer playground or something like that. Yeah, I think can I say that those are actually part of the effort that can be made under the local councillor side?
Yes, so we call these initiatives. Anything that we do that is outside of the job scope, we label them as our initiatives. So we had like 20 initiatives in the last 3 years before the elections of different things we did, which includes things like this lah. So initiative can be very playground related, but initiatives can also be very policy related.
Right.
So yeah, definitely. So for example, one initiative we did in Bukit Gasing was we did a 1-to-1 matching grant with our RAs for CCTV, because quite a bit of RAs wanted CCTVs to protect their neighborhood. So Section 11 was one of the first people to start, and actually I was there for the check handover. So they pulled 10,000 ringgit and we also contributed 10,000 ringgit, and so now it's a fully functional CCTV system in the neighborhood. Yeah, definitely a local councillor can coordinate it. The job is what you write the job description to be, I think.
And maybe just to take people behind the curtain, the local councillors are actually appointed with the recommendation of the local elected reps from the respective parties, right? So in the case of PJ, as an adun, Rajiv will be able to nominate some of his candidates. Yi Wei in Kampung Tungku, Jamalia in Bandar Utama, and even the MP will have their own quota, so to speak, that they discuss among themselves. And then this ensures that there's alignment between the local councillor and also the elected reps, so that you get them to work together, right? It's not the local councillor working on his or her own, sometimes
In silos.
not really working with other team members and not working with the MP and other. We probably don't, that situation is not ideal.
Yeah, and from the inside, I think that DAP's method is the most efficient compared to other parties. I can bravely say that. Yeah.
So let me throw this question to you. Just going from where Peter talked about just now, there seems to be this disconnect because there may be a lack of accountability, right? You don't know who your local councillor is,
right,
because he or she doesn't really have to promote himself or herself. He or she doesn't have to stand for elections.
That's right.
So there's less incentive for him or her to be accountable to the residents. So if, let's say, based on your experience working in Rajiv's office and now a councillor for 3 months, do you think if we have local council elections, that accountability gap would be closed?
Definitely. Yeah, I think so. Because, for example, when you stand in an election, you need to tell the people what you're going to do for the election. No matter where you serve in Malaysia, you need to tell them what's
That's right.
your 3 things or 4 things that you want to do. And you also have 2 weeks of campaigning period where you will listen from people what they want done. And bypassing this step, in my opinion, not everybody will have the right value in their heart and aligned to serve. But having an election, and especially when they have to re-elect themselves, they need to tell them, okay, I had these 2 terms, this is what I did, and then this is why I deserve a re-election. I feel like that whether there is an election or not, but not all councillors feel that way. And the best way to fight this is local council elections, and I strongly stand by the DAP for our stand for local government elections.
So why do you think some councillors would not be supportive of having local council elections?
Maybe a lot of them also lack confidence to stand for an election. I mean, even to think about it, at 24, for me to stand for a local government election is also quite scary. But at the same time, people don't like to leave their comfort zones. And right now, the political parties have already been appointing the councillors all over Malaysia for a long time. And even political parties don't feel the need to change their comfort zones. Except the DAP, we still stand for local government elections.
What happens if, let's say, I throw out this counter to say that once you have local council elections, then the whole process will be quote-unquote politicized. You then force the local councillors to go and have to raise funds for their own campaign, and this would mean that they will have to be beholden to certain people who give them funds, whether it's developers or other people who rely on the local council system to make a living. Usually this would be the big boys and other influential people in the ecosystem. So do you think that is a valid concern?
I think that's a valid concern. I think that's a concern that can happen right now. People with political influence and political financing for the parties that win the government can still request that their candidates are becoming councillors in certain local council. That is a valid concern, but that's not a concern to go against the local government elections, because technically you could use that argument for state and federal government elections too. There are 3 levels of governments.
Okay, yeah, fair point.
Let's take a break. Later, once we come back on the third section, we'll be asking some more juicy questions.
Welcome back to the Are We OK podcast. This is the third and final segment of our interview with Kusha, who is the youngest female councillor in MPPJ at 24 years old, going to be 25 this year. Kusha, I've known you for a while. I know that you're somebody who's very passionate about public policy. You even took a master's in public policy at UM. Going back to public policy, right? I think it's an issue or an area where not really that many politicians give enough focus on. Why do you think that's the case? Either at the local council, at the local council level, or the state or federal government level?
I think there's a mismatch in skill sets. So, for example, if you're a policy guy, you're more likely to be introverted, focused on details, focused on problems, focused on reading things to solve the problems. You want to understand things in depth so you can solve the real problem. And this skill set, unfortunately, it's not usually
recognized.
It's not recognized, not appreciated, and most of the time these people are introverts and not extroverts, and they don't express themselves as well as maybe an extrovert would. Because, there are natural skill sets that people have that we cannot deny. Like, for example, I'm naturally extroverted, and I think it's helped me a lot in politics. But when I look at it from the lens of Rajiv, who's naturally very introverted, he struggles. And he comes out from, social engagement and gatherings feeling zapped out, overworked, very tired. Whereas I come out from all these things, bouncing, bouncing with more energy. You see, the more I have a conversation with you guys, the more chirpier I become compared to when I'm sitting by myself.
Sure.
So, this mismatch means that if you're a politician and you need to be friendly, chirpy, and engaging with the public, you usually will not have this skill set. But at the same time, it's very important for a political party to align its values and goals. So we do need some extroverts on the ground hurrahing the people, getting them to go and vote, and getting the votes out. I will not deny the importance of getting the vote out. But then later when you form the government, you have competent people in the government. So how do you balance? Like, for example, the CEC goes into an elections of 20 people, now 30 actually. And how do you balance the list of 30 people? You need your ground campaigners. You need them. You need to get the word out. But how do you also, make sure that the policy masterminds are also included in this list? Yeah, it's very important, and I think this lies on the shoulder of the leader.
Do you think that DAP has moved sufficiently or is moving in the right direction in terms of trying to bring more policy-oriented people who can maybe also explain public policies in ways that are accessible and understandable to the man on the street? Do you think we are going towards the right direction, or do you think we still need a little bit push to get there?
I think we are lacking some affirmative action, because I think the DAP can do better in making sure that in protecting the talent that are specialized in different things. Not just policy, but for example, if you're really good at social media, then you should be on the team of 30 people to drive the DAP social media Facebook. Different people have different skills, values, and assets, and not everybody come with votes. And so, as the leader of the DAP, I hope that my SG will balance this. People with votes are important. Winning the CEC is important. But at the same time, how do you have a group with multi-talent that you protect and you bring together? Because when it comes to serving in the government, you can't just have the people who are winning on votes to be in the government.
So you need a good HR manager to get balance.
You need a HR manager, and you need affirmative action. You need to understand what your team is lacking and who to make sure is on the team to fix the lacking. Sometimes the lacking is representation. Sometimes the lacking is women. Sometimes the lacking is policy. Sometimes it's publicity. And, it takes a good HR leader to be like, yes, we are lacking in this department. We need to affirmatively recruit this person and put them on our team so they win the CEC too.
So as a business owner, as somebody who's circulated in different groups and circles, what do you think of Kusha's suggestion there?
I agree. I think that the talent management effort is too fragmented. It needs to be more centralized. There needs to be like in corporate, right? In especially at SME, small business like mine, right? There's a lot of attention that needs to be paid in terms of workforce planning. Yeah, so that everything becomes efficient. Then on top of that, succession planning as well.
Yep.
Yeah, all these kind of things needs to be in place. And what are the things that need to get done and to match the skill set with it. So I think another thing that requires on top of all that is the incentive part lah. Because like you say, right? I mean, the ones who get all the show time,
the attention.
The attention is usually the people who can talk. Right? What about people who can't talk? So naturally, you make it hard for people who can work but can't talk to kind of like fade off the scene because there's no further incentive. If I do everything, other people take the credit, what's the point, right? So I think that's one thing that lies on whatever organization, not just political party, to actually have a proper incentive and communication system that goes out in such a way where everyone's effort is being recognized. Like within my company as well, we make a very active effort to tell our editors that don't see yourself as the back end. Without your video, we wouldn't be able to make money. If you don't edit this video out on time, the guys won't be able to watch it. We won't get our sponsorship. So the video guys are actually extremely important. Yeah, and these are some of the things. It has to be top down. It has to be created structurally. Like even at the local councillor level, right? I totally agree. Like the more you all talk about it, the more I realize that there is no. You see, if you're not a local councillor who actually doesn't speak up, like you say, you're very lucky. You actually speak up.
But I
you're
acknowledge
extroverted.
it's a privilege I have.
Yeah, but how are you going to showcase yourself if let's say you're not? Then if let's say you're not, and then with that skill set, might as well go and work for corporate. I can probably do a better job and I get paid more some more. So
that's one challenge. I think the other challenge is the kind of experiences that you've had in a very positive way. To what extent do you think those kinds of systems of support, of learning and teaching, to what extent is it replicated throughout the party, in local councils, in other places? I mean, from your experience so far, let's say in Selangor.
Yeah, I like to think I'm a grassroots girl because, I did the whole DAP youth chief thing. I'm playing the DEPSI game. I am the DEPSI Selangor Public Policy Bureau chief. I feel that the love and support I receive from the grassroots of the party is significantly higher than many leaders in the party. Many leaders have come out. Like for example, you seek me out also, and also Rajiv, who's the one who's like stop doing actuarial science, come join politics. You have what it takes. A lot of people have told me that I have what it takes and I should do it, but not many people are willing to sit down and be like, okay, if you're going to be in politics, you need to play these 5 games. And if you need to play the 5 games well. Nobody's going to sit down and tell you that. And so that's why I feel like I was very privileged in a way because I'm friendly, nice, kind, I like to think. And people like to be my friend. And because people like to be my friend, they teach me a lot of things, including my grassroots members. Like certain things like different people have different talent, and the ability for me to seek them out and learn from all these different people comes from me being extroverted and friendly naturally. But people who are introverted, what about them?
So I think the challenge for any organization, including for the DAP, is to what extent do you institutionalize some of these best practices?
That's right.
So that if you're a local councillor coming in, whether it's in PJ or Shah Alam or Kuala Langat, you have at least some sort of baseline where you are able to learn certain things and you know how to make certain contributions, not only at the local council level, but also at state, even national level, to be able to feed the kind of information that you think leaders need to know, and for leaders to know this is the way we can utilize you on the ground so that the entire ecosystem can be much more effective and productive.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. But not easy to do. It's like
it's not easy to do because nobody wants to really be replaced. You don't want to teach your replacement.
Agree. Yeah, I think another thing that I'm very curious about, right? So actually, as a local councillor, are you hired under the political party or are you hired under the local council like MB, SA?
So I'm nominated by DAP Selangor to Menteri Besar who signs my Watika. So actually the official lantikan or Watika is a letter of appointment. A letter of appointment, yeah. So the official direction is the Menteri Besar appoints the councillors. In all 12 councils in Selangor, all the 24 councillors are appointed by the Menteri Besar. But the more intricate detail is that the parties nominate to the Menteri Besar. So Rajiv will nominate to DAP Selangor. DAP Selangor will have a conversation. Do we think this list is okay, not okay? Then after DAP Selangor has tidied up their list, it goes to the Menteri Besar, and usually he accepts DAP Selangor's list as is, and you get a Surat Watika. I'm paid for by MPPJ, but currently I'm also being paid by Rajiv's office because I'm still working as his political secretary. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So actually that's what happens for many of the local councillors. They would get a salary from MPPJ, and then if they're doing extra work for the MP or the ADUN, they will also get an additional salary. And I think the reason why that is a good practice is because the salary that you get as a local councillor is not that high. You're getting
2,500 ringgit.
2,500 as a basic salary, and then including some of the meeting
allowance is about 150 ringgit. Yeah.
So you get probably close to about 4,000 as a starting pay. Not that much. She would be able to earn more as an actual scientist.
Yep.
So that's why her income will be supplemented by some of the things that she does for
Rajiv.
the ADUN in her case.
So can I say that as a local councillor, it's also the beginning first step as joining into politics, right? You are starting to be in that first step of like having some sort of a responsibility in
being in the
bigger
front
scale,
line,
being a front line in the bigger scale, right? And while the salary is low, you did mention that there's a budget of 150,000 that you're
not for us to take home.
not for your take home, but you all can use it.
Yes.
Right. So I also see it is kind of like in the whole hierarchy, like the bigger top one will have a bigger budget. Then this is where it bring it all the way down to the groundwork level. 150,000. Okay, how can you contribute to the people like that? And it's also a good place to test this person's honesty and how you deal with money, right? Because we know that when money comes
very
in,
important.
It gets a bit funky sometimes.
Mr. Money would know.
So here's the question I want to ask, right? When you're managing this money that time, right? This 150,000. What are some of your principle or guiding principle in using this money, in your own personal opinion?
So actually, I plan it out for like the year. So we have a team Bukit Gasing meeting and we plan it out for the year. So we need to celebrate our festivals, which is very important because not everybody wants their drink upgraded. People just want to celebrate festival. Like I said, our voters are diverse. So, we separate them into the different interest groups and see what are the activities that we've planned out for all these different groups. So then we plan out everything that we're going to be doing for the year in terms of programs and events. And then the hardscape stuff, like, we know that this thing needs an upgrade now, that thing needs an upgrade now. But to know this, you need to have already done the constituency work for a while. So the reason I have a much more systematic way of spending is because Rajiv has been the ADUN for the last 2 terms in Bukit Gasing. And we know which parts of our constituency needs upgrading, when was the last time this was upgraded 10 years ago. So it's time for a renewal here. So we divide it into programs and events as well as infrastructure initiatives if and when needed. And we don't talk about it like my 150 ringgit how I spend, my 150,000 ringgit how I spend. We talk about it more collectively, like we have 3 DAP councillors in Bukit Gasing, so 150 each plus Rajiv's peruntukan. So what is Bukit Gasing going to do for the year?
Right.
That's how we plan it.
So that will depend on the individual practice of different officers already, right?
Yeah, correct.
Yeah. So
it's not like I don't get a decision making power. It's like I do. Actually, I'm heard a lot. Every time I have an opinion. They coordinate. Yeah.
Which is good because
it's like
you
a committee
leverage the money together and then say, hey, we can make a bigger scale impact, right? I believe there are also some who say, nope, this is mine. I'm going to deal with it the way that I want it.
Not
right?
usually the DAP style.
Yeah, not usually the DAP style. Now, are there also stories where people, because I understand that to build your career in politics, there are a lot of talks about like you need to Chinese say 养人 means you
take care of people.
Take care of people. You need to take care of people, right? And I understand that very often when I hear from the fine reading in between the lines, sometimes this is where the budget comes out. Take care of people. You do the A, B, C, D. This is how much you get. Not say that you just give them money, but I would say dumb money lah.
I get what you mean.
Yeah. So what are some of these practices that you see sometimes, and how it ends up affecting, or what are the most like worst case that you've seen before?
Worst case I've seen before. Maybe let's talk about my office practice. So we separate government money from party money very seriously. There is the DAP Jalan Othman bank account where all our election campaigning, funding and fundraising for the DAP Petaling Jaya goes into that Jalan Othman account. And everything that we do that's party related. So yes, DAPSI PJ does get together once in a while. All of these people do get together once in a while, but it only comes from the DAP Jalan Othman account. Everything that's DAP related comes from the branch account, and everything that's government related comes from the government coffers. And I am very proud to come from an office that keeps it totally separate, because I don't think I can work for an office that is not, because it
so
doesn't
there are
like...
offices that
not that I know of, but okay lah, maybe it's like I've heard of political parties that are not the DAP use it for their elections when it's election year.
I think it's kind of an open secret, right?
Maybe to answer your question in ways that probably Kusha can't answer at this point in time, would be that in the past, not PH parties, but in the past, in Selangor, for example, it was common practice for you if let's say you are working in the Adun or the MP's office, to say, oh, this association, you ask for a donation of 10,000. I will give you 10,000, but you will return 2,000 to me. The 2,000 would be my administrative or processing fee.
Kickback. They call it kickback.
I call it something else because I'm more politically correct. And then this is done with the agreement of the Adun or the MP. And this is a way in which the Adun or MP, like what you say, feeds his people, take care of his people. As long as you're working for me, you will have access to these kinds of extra benefits.
Right.
So what Kusha is saying is that as far as her office is concerned, at Rajiv's office, the two are kept separate, and obviously there are no practices of these kinds of administrative charges.
There's audits for all the accounts in the JP Jalan Othman branch, and they're all done during fundraising in the elections. You can see the transactions very clearly.
So here's the juice part that I want to ask, right? As a citizen, I wouldn't know, right? So what are some of the telltale signs that allow me to know, like, whether are these people truly working? If I ever give a donation to a political party or to a local council or whatnot, is there any telltale signs that will allow me to know that, okay, I should be a little bit more careful with this particular office or whatnot?
Okay, maybe the first telltale sign, if someone expects something in return. Most of the things I do for most people, there's nothing in return that I get. And if someone is expecting something in return, it's a good alarm bell sound. Yeah.
So for example, if you were to ask, can you do this for me? Can you fix that for me? That person may say, what's in it for me? Then that would be a telltale sign. That's one. Another would be, maybe Kusha hasn't seen this kind of thing in real life, but if suddenly a local councillor who was previously driving a Proton Vira, after becoming a local councillor, suddenly switch cars and drive a Mercedes S-Class, and then something doesn't fit quite right. Of course, there are certain local councillors who were wealthy to begin with. We know some of them in PJ as well. And they were driving S-Class even before they became a local councillor. Being a local councillor was just a way for them to, contribute to the community. They have good passive income and all that kind of stuff. So it really depends on a case-by-case basis. But there are telltale signs, and the people in the industry, so to speak, would know. If
Actually,
suddenly,
yes.
Yeah. You want to say more about that?
Yeah, ask their colleagues. Really.
Ask their colleagues.
Yeah,
I like that one.
Most likely they will guide you to who is the straight one and who is the not so straight one.
Yeah, the reputational sort of like issues, spread quite quickly.
Right.
So
Yes.
I know of local councillors whom I've not met before, but people tell me, this one is Mr. 10% or something like that.
Yeah. Actually, talking to anyone in the party who's senior enough, like even Dr. Wang, he can tell you like who and where to be careful of. Yeah.
So this is like, there's the advantage if let's say I know someone, right? But if I do not know anyone, then the only telltale sign is actually whether the person will hint of any
in a direct conversation. But if you're donating money to someone, it should be someone you believe in. So you should have a conversation with the person and see if your values align, and you should be able to have a conversation. Like, what is the funding for?
Another thing that as a citizen, sometimes I see, and then we will start to create rumors and ask ourselves, is like, for example, when we say, hey, maybe can the MPPJ or someone go and fix this particular thing, right? And then the thing is fixed at a very, very bad quality. Yeah, but so it's like, we always wonder, does it mean that, maybe they pay for a premium price, but the work that they get is
I'll be interested.
So in PJ, this falls under the tender committee, which there's only 4 people who sit in the tender committee. The Dato Banda, Timbalan Dato Banda, and 2 councillors. And the councillor from DAP that's sitting in the PJ tender committee is Mr. Ong Yutai, who is a very senior party member as well as a very knowledgeable person. And so the tender committee decides what specs, what exactly you're tendering it for. They have like a BQ, so they come up with like, okay, you're going to do this to this spec and everything, and the best price wins the tender system game. We can enforce their tender,
and also to follow up in terms of after the work is done, making sure that the quality is as what was specified under the BQ. So for example, if let's say the road is supposed to be tarred up to 3 inches, then after the tarring, road tarring exercise, you should send people from the local council to go and verify, or again take a few calls to go and check whether the actual depth was achieved or not.
So it's called a coring test. Yeah, they drill into the ground and pick up the thing.
So as a citizen, how will I know? Because will I be able to get access to all this kind of information?
Which is why it's very important to have local government elections, because your councillor should help you hold all these things accountable. It's very difficult
because
for
I was thinking of myself, right?
Yeah.
I wouldn't know what is the specs that you order for. Like, for example, very often when we see road works being fixed, one of the most common problem that we see is that they are just solving the surface problem. It's not the
Literally,
root
like,
cause,
the
right?
surface.
Yeah, and then they'll keep coming every month just to fix the same issue, right? Then I'm thinking to myself, isn't that not very efficient?
Isn't that the same thing as the drain in section 12? It's
Yeah,
not
so-
about the one drain.
So to me, other than local council elections, one way in which we can increase the transparency in these kinds of exercises is to make sure that if, let's say, there are certain specs and conditions for whatever tender that you issue out, they should be publicly accessible.
Yeah.
So that if, let's say, you or somebody else wants to go look at it, you can do that. If, let's say, there are going to be coring tests that are going to be done, then the reports should also be publicly accessible.
right? Yeah.
Right, so the more transparent it is, the better the system will
That's
be.
right.
Ideally, we should have a database of all of this. But right now in Selangor, what you can do is you can fill up an FOI form. So it's freedom of information. It's 12 ringgit. You can ask for anything. You can ask for the local government's tenders in the last year. You can ask for anything. And they, under the law, they have to answer you unless they don't have the information.
So it's 12 ringgit FOI. Where do you go and submit this and get the form?
SUK.
Yeah, this is the Selangor
State government initiative. So because local councils are also under them,
So
you can
go
do
into
that.
the MPPJ office to ask for that?
No,
SUK.
Inshallah, the Selangor State Government Office.
Oh,
The Putrajaya of the Selangor.
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
but I will also say that not all FOI requests are entertained and attended to in the way that I think many people would
Yes.
like. Yeah. Okay. We're coming to the end of this interview. Maybe Kusha, can you give us some indication of what the next 2 years will be for you? In terms of your local council responsibilities, in terms of your responsibilities at DAPSI, at Rajiv's office, in the state government. What are some of the areas of focus for you?
Okay, so I've got about 5. My first focus is, of course, MPPJ, and PJ is significantly aging. We're becoming a more aged population than most of the cities in Malaysia. And how do we make sure that our commercial areas, our parks, all of our facilities and infrastructure remain aging friendly? This also means, like, for example, pedestrian crossing. We cannot expect people to climb up the stairs, walk across, climb down the stairs. Being an age-friendly city means that you should have the road pedestrian crossing with appropriate amount of time for senior citizens to cross. So we have a PJ Senior Citizen Action Plan, which irons out all the different things that we're going to do. One of it is the example that I gave, which is making sure that we have crossings on the road instead of expecting people to cross up and come down. But a lot of other things, making sure the ramps in the commercial area are of the right size, so wheelchair and accessible friendly and all of these things. The second thing for PJ is that we're going to be relooking our RTPJ, which is Rancangan Tempatan Petaling Jaya. So this will go through a public display.
That's the local plan?
That's the local plan. So every land in PJ, and PPJ decides what is the use of the land. And in PJ, we have about 7 colours, and we'll be adding a new colour, which is affordable housing. It's a new policy that we will be announcing soon. Actually, Rajiv should make the announcement. It was his idea. We'll be looking at the entire PJ, what the city needs, what's the city lacking, and part of it also comes the MPPJ amenities plan. So where do you have a basketball court? Where do you have a badminton court? Where are you lacking a field? Where are you lacking a library based on the population around the area and things like that? As well as we have a development levy. So we take 30% from developers when we convert their land from residential to commercial, for example. When we upgrade their land, we take a 30% levy. So this MPPJ amenities plan is my vision to manage this levy efficiently. So how do you upgrade your amenities? When do you need to acquire green space to make parks when you have a huge development and things like that? And that's coming in the next 2 years. These are the big picture policy initiative. For my kawasan, of course, I want to extend my river trail. We have about 700 meters. We need 3.1 more kilometers, and it takes a lot of money. So we're lobbying JPS to come to Bukit Gasing and finish off the river trail that we started in Sungai Penchala.
Can we run on it?
Yes, you can. You can. Now it's only 700 meters. So it's LRT Asia Jaya. It's only 700 meters. So it's more like a sprint run. Yeah. It connects. Previously, there was no connection from LRT Asia Jaya to the Section 19 commercial area. But now you can walk through this river trail, and it's about 700 meters to be connected to the LRT. And it's a nice way to put our river in front of us instead of treating our river like a backyard. And the community is very well involved in that, as well as...
Can you go kayaking in the river?
We want to. So the water quality is not at the level yet. We need to be one more level higher. But in Bukit Kiara, the water is very clean. However, when it comes down to PJ, the water gets dirty along the way. So we're also thinking how to clean up the river. And this is a serious conversation that I've been working on with JPS over the last 3 years. Actually, it's one of the initiatives Rajiv let me pick to clean up the river. He said it'll be very bold if a politician can come out and say, let's clean up the river. And so we're still identifying exactly where to put the rubbish traps, who should collect them, KDB or what. We're putting together all the parts of the pieces to try to increase the water quality. Part of it being the river trail, so when people dump, other people can watch and report. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So those are the MPBG related initiatives. How
Yes.
about like what I asked just now? Maybe some of your own sort of like political priorities in DEPSI Selangor. So you are the head of the DEPSI Public Policy Bureau.
Yep.
What are the kind of plans that you have for this scope of work?
So being the head of the DEPSI Public Policy Bureau is also the reason I co-founded SOCDEM Malaysia, which is a think tank. So we've managed to attract quite a bit of professionals to be part of the cause and part of nation building, and especially going through the government plans and seeing what they're missing, what are the world practices that the world is doing but we are missing from our plans. And it's been interesting. It's been a lot of document reading, but we have one coming up, which is the National Hydrogen Plan. Our advocacy to the National Hydrogen Plan, and actually the Deputy Minister YB Liu Chin Tong will be launching SOCDEM. Alongside that paper, we'll have a forum on that. So what the government might have missed out in the thing, as well as a case study with NGV, like why NGV went south and how to learn from the NGV mistake to make sure it doesn't happen for
natural gas
hydrogen.
vehicles.
Yeah. This is for the trucking vehicles, the heavy loaded vehicles. But this is the political goals. The political goals is... Actually, I hope to contest DEPSI National in this coming...
Okay, DEPSI National in what capacity? As
one of the 15 people.
Okay, yeah.
So DEPSI is like you can directly elect the Ketua, you can directly elect...
DEPSI means Deputy Secretary.
No, DEPSI is the DAP Youth Circle.
Oh.
Yeah, so now I'm the DEPSI PJ Chief, which means I'm the DAP Youth Chief of Petaling Jaya. I am also the DEPSI Selangor Public Policy Bureau Chief. So DEPSI Selangor is a group of 20 people which are elected into the committee from all over Selangor. And I'm part of them, and I'm also heading the Public Policy Bureau. So now I'm planning to go on the next level, which is DEPSI National. So they elect the Ketua, Setiausaha, and the Deputy Presidents are directly elected.
National Youth Chief.
Not National Youth Chief.
That's a different thing.
No. She's saying that the youth chief, the deputy, and the SecGen, they are the secretary. They are elected directly. That means you have a
casting vote on a specific person.
What she's hoping
Intending
to
to
contest
contest.
is the equivalent of the Central Executive Committee of the DAP at the national level. But this is 15 people that will be elected. From the list of how many candidates.
So announcing this is scary because I may win, I may lose, but I will try. Because
Okay,
campaigning in the party is a very fruitful experience that I've learned from the past.
I'm sure you'll learn a lot from it. You'll be able to reach out to a lot of people using your very positive energy. And maybe just one last question. On the sort of like politics front, what do you think DAP can do more of in terms of being able to attract diverse and passionate people interested in public service into the party among the younger generation like yourself?
I think what I was drawn to join the party and in fact to be in frontline politics was the actions. Like I was very inspired by the actions taken by Rajiv, just a backbencher doing so much of initiative and actually life-changing for people in the Klang Valley. When our testing centers were testing close to 10,000 something people, it was quite... it was very clear that if I did this and did that, you can put things together and it will work. And I think what the DAP needs to do is exactly that. And we have elected reps who are doing things and who are passionately organizing themselves to do certain initiatives or policies. But how do we run governments? In the Selangor State Government, what is the DAP going to do? What is the DAP influence in Selangor or federal? We need to align ourselves that, okay, these are the 5 things. Let's not talk about all the things we're not going to do. Let's talk about what is the 5 things we want to do. And let's work on the 5 things, because I feel like as long as we're doing the work and we're working towards these 5 goals, we will attract people who care about the 5 goals.
Okay, so to put you on the spot, I will ask you to name all 5 goals, maybe 2 or 3 that you think that young people would care about and that would be passionate about. What
A strong public education system. that
Okay.
can help people graduate.
Yep. I think
Productive workforce.
some of our neighboring countries have done that, quite well in their public education system. Okay, yeah, that's one. Any maybe two more?
First of all, public transport infrastructure. Like
Okay.
we shouldn't lag behind in Southeast Asia. Singapore's already there. It's time for us to get there. It's been many, many years already.
Yep. Okay. Connectivity, public transport. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah,
Then
complete network.
Then the third one. Yeah. Putting you on the spot. What do young people care about now that maybe 20 years ago wasn't on their sort of like horizons? So to
Actually, the
speak?
job market. Everybody
Job
wants to
market.
get hired well. Everybody wants to be paid well. We want investors to come into Malaysia and be able to pay a high wage while still not losing money. So they have to be productively making that much more money to be paying people high wage. But how do we get them into the country in the next 10 years so that the workforce will be skilled and leveled up to get that high wages?
And how do you have an education system that's able to
Feed into this workforce. So it's kind of connected, but yeah, people want good jobs. People want a decent life.
Yeah, so thanks so much, Kusha, for coming in and hopefully educating you guys, educating us definitely on
Yep.
what being
Not Dr. Ong, maybe just Peter.
is about.
I've learned a lot. Yeah.
And I think we should continue this conversation by asking different guests to come to share their experiences about their own journey into the realm of politics in a way that would be relevant to public policy.
That's right.
So we'll see you in the next episode, and come back again and click the subscribe button so that you can support our positive content.
Like, share, subscribe.
I'll go with that.